Shedeur Sanders, postgame, asked what he learned from the loss against the Bills.
It's really just building off last week. It's building off getting to the checkdowns. When you see it, pull it, take it. Playing in rhythm, like all those different things. Like I lurk and I learn and I prove to myself, like I can do that. Like that's an aspect of my game that I gotta be more consistent with. But I can see that, and like even the last drive, for example, and I respect, and I was telling them like during the game, like I respect their defense. I respect kind of like their coaching and how it was, because if you understand, it was kind of like Tampa 2, that Mike Backer running, walling, taking that middle, because we had a through route, a vertical route from the inside. Then we had a dagger coming. But then as soon as and I'm like, okay, cool. I got the dagger. But then he peeled off and then was waiting on that dagger. So by the time I went there, then it was just hard to get back down. I ran out of time. So that's just like in those situations, it's like you got to tip your cap to them. Like that's the whole why. Because if you playing like, that's the ideal coverage you want a dagger in. You know what I'm saying? But anything else, we would have got to the check down. We would have got to there quicker. But that's the why of you didn't just take that quick completion.
Pete, I actually was pretty impressed. There were a lot of things that Sanders did that I thought was an evolution. I'm just curious your take. I know some people are like, oh, they're coaching the aggressiveness out of him. Like, no, he's learning you can't be aggressive in the NFL on every play is kind of the takeaway that I had with it.
Well, part of it was the Bills played a completely different defense in some ways than the teams they've been facing. So many teams want to load up the box and take away Quinshon Judkins as well as possible. The Bills showed a lot of that stuff and then would immediately dropped out, which is sort of what he's talking about with this sort of thing. And the Bills made it a point to sort of take away the deep passing game. So, Colorado, Shedeur Sanders might be content to throw the ball downfield and see what happens. I saw a lot of smart plays in terms of taking the profit, throwing to wide open underneath guys who could then run and make plays after the catch. And because the Browns were in front of the sticks so much of the game, which was such a huge element for them, it just allowed them to keep moving the ball. I liked the way he handled himself in some of those situations. Where the plays he missed down the field, absolutely. There's stuff that he's gonna continue to learn. But he didn't fall into the traps that he fell into against the Chicago Bears. And that's what he's talking about in terms of some of the stuff he's trying to read on the field. And if you don't necessarily know football terminology, what he's talking about sounds like gobbledygook, but it's actually really interesting what he's sort of breaking down with some of that stuff. And I do see a kid who's learning, ultimately, is that enough for me to hand him the starting job next year? No, but the thing I keep taking away from him is I'm legitimately interested in seeing what this kid can become. I just can't bet the whole franchise on him.
Yeah, I would. That's absolutely fair. Take a look at this. This will kind of give some numbers to what I just mentioned. Average time to throw 2.89 against the Bulls. That's Next Gen Stats. His lowest time to throw of the season. Only averaged 2.2 air yards per attempt. Lowest average depth of target for any of the Browns quarterbacks over the last 20 seasons. But that was because, as you mentioned, they're taking away the deep route. So he played smart. Best running game of the season. Season best 48.4% success rate and a 73.3% conversion rate. Second best mark of the season. What all those numbers tell you is he was playing the game that was in front of him and was kind of making the offense as successful as it could be.
Yeah, I think if Shedeur Sanders just went 20 for 29 and threw for like 159 yards, and the Browns were able to capitalize on all their opportunities and win this game, I think it would have just been sort of described as an economical performance that he did what he was supposed to win the game. But at one point, I think the Browns were 8 of 10 on third down conversions. They ultimately ended up 8 of 14 because of the late drives. But they were really efficient in terms of just continuing to keep drives going. And we can complain and go, well, where are the big plays? Where are the big plays? His job is to move the offense and continue to keep them on the field and sort of take the profit and put them in a position to win. And the shame of it is one of the third downs they didn't convert is because pinky got basically lacerated and destroyed. And they had to put in Dylan Gabriel for that one play. And unfortunately, he took a sack. But, like, for all the things we saw there, I would have loved to have seen what Shedeur would have done with that third down to see if he could continue to keep it going. But he just did a lot of smart things. He's got to continue to grow. And this is the part that we can't sort of get away from is he's figuring this thing out as he goes, which is fine. He's a tactile learner. He's made that very clear. And I appreciate that about him. But it also goes to show just like there is so much to this position he has to learn. And it's okay for him to be okay. The problem is like we're trying to analyze him through this lens of he has to be a franchise level quarterback right now, and that was never realistic. But that doesn't mean he's failing either. It just means that the Browns can't sort of just say, "Okay, we're giving you the team." That's fine. He can compete for the job next year, and that's why I'm very curious to see what he can do. Is if he has a great offseason, if he comes into camp and plays really well, he might be able to win the job, and if he does, more power to him.